So this journey first happened for me while I was basically dying of Lyme's disease, and this was just after the holographic breathing first came through. And one of the things I would do to heal myself was to go on journeys into the earth, because I had pneumonia and I had different chest infections, and I was living in a barge, and I wanted to bring in some fire energy. And I'd found out that I could travel with holographic breathing, so I started traveling into the earth and using that to aid my healing process. And I dropped down into the crust of the earth, and I was clear for me that was relating to my hara, or the lower body, as I dropped in, and there was the healing energies of the minerals and the rocks and the underground streams, and just the energies of the earth. Then I'd spend time dropping through that, and then after a while I'd drop down into the magma, and for me this raises up in the body and is much more to do with the central part of the body, the heart and lungs, and this obviously had a fiery energy, and that would help cleanse my lungs and would help me get better from all the chest infections I was getting because of having the Lyme's disease. And then, you know, I would just come back. And in holographic breathing, the energies, we can look at the energies in many ways, and one is that the mouth and the jaw relate to the hara, it relates to the lower energies. The central part of the face relates to the heart and lungs and more the emotions and feelings. And then when you come up into the eyes, it's a much brighter energy, and this relates to the brain and the higher energies. And it was a similar journey going into the earth. The earth's crust was to do with the hara. You drop down into the magma, it's much more to do with the heart and lungs. And then always below me I could see, when I was in the magma, if I dropped down far enough, there was a giant crystal, and I never ventured into that. We are going to today. But that would relate to the eyes or the higher energies or the brain. And so the earth had that kind of hara, heart, intellect or higher energies, but going inwardly to the middle. And so I was doing that, and it was a very powerful day. It was just coming up to a very powerful day, and I'd had some communications from an owl or different owls. I was coming back the night before. I'd been running a healing session, and I got stopped by this owl. I was going through some woods, and there was this big owl just sitting in the middle of the road, and it didn't fly away, and I just drove up and turned the lights off, and this owl was just looking at me, and there was this very strong communication of the owl. Then after a while it flew up to a branch near my window, and I rolled the window down, and there was this communication again with the owl. It was, you know, quite a strong talk really. But anyway, it flew away. And the next day, as I was walking along, I was just walking along this farm track, and an owl took off from between my feet as I was walking, just slowly flew off in front of me, not far in front of me, and then went away. And after that, every time I taught this particular journey, I would see owls directly afterwards. This journey has got something to do with the owls. And even though I'm in a town at the minute, over the last week, when I go on little walks, I keep on finding owl feathers. I brought some actually back yesterday and today. 1 second. Okay, so as I was walking over the last couple of weeks, I kept on seeing these feathers. And I could pick them up over the last couple of days and check them, and they were actually barn owl feathers, the same as these owls I had been seeing before. But anyway, that evening when I went back into it, it was very different. And this is the journey we're going to go on today. As I dropped into the earth, it was still the earth, but it had a much more sensuous quality to it. And as I dropped down into the magma, it was still the magma, but as I went into it, it was very clear it was the womb. It was the womb of the earth. And the womb, or the uterus, is the heart center for the female genitalia. So the genitalia also splits into three. The hara for the genitalia is the penis and vagina. The heart for the genitalia is the uterus and prostate. And then the higher energies and the connection to the beyond is the ovaries and testes. So it also splits into three. So as I've been coming down through the earth's crust, that was more in me to do with my penis. For a woman it would be the vagina. And then dropping into the fire of the earth, this is the uterus and prostate, or for the earth it's the uterus, she is female. And it was a strong journey, and I just dropped and went deeper and deeper. And then this time when I came to the crystal in the middle, it wasn't the same. It wasn't shiny kind of quartz crystals I came down to. It was just round and kind of had an energy to it. And as I came towards it, I realized it was a giant ovum. The whole center of the earth was an ovum. And anyway, I landed on it, and as soon as I landed on it and my feet landed on it, it connected to my testes. So for me it related to the testes, and for a woman it would be the ovaries. And anyway, after a while it just let me through, and I dropped inside, and all the warmth went, and it was cool, and it was very transcendent quality. So I was using it to heal my own genitalia, my own sexuality, and that creative energy by having this reflection back from how it feels in the earth. And I'm going through this because this is the journey you are also going to go on in, and I will take it into much more depth in your journey. But anyway, I'd moved. Before I didn't go into that, but I allowed myself just to drop deeper and deeper through this very transcendental quality that was which was to do with wisdom and creation, because this is the area, the ovaries and testes, the genitalia, that is where creation happens in us, and it's deeply healing for that area. And I dropped deeper and deeper, and at the very center of the earth, I really was not expecting it, there was a sphere, not that much bigger than me, about 2 or 3 times my size. And I allowed myself to go to it. It was very attractive. There was this polarity, like the opposite ends of a magnet being pulled to it, but at the same time there was some intrepidation because I had no idea what it was. It certainly was giving out a pulsing energy. And anyway, I circled it for a bit and then put my hands and feet on it, and then also went inside this sphere. And as I went inside, the whole earth broke away. The whole earth just evaporated and went off in all directions. And my thoughts at the time was, oh, the center of the earth is connected to the center of the universe and the center of the galaxy, because I felt myself in deep space, or the void, or the very opposite of what you would think of as the center of the earth. I ended up in the void and creation of total non-manifestation, the place everything goes to die and everything is born out of. There's nothing there, but the whole of creation is manifested out of it. So I hung out there for a while, and a lot, you know, all of this, we will hang out in these places much longer than I'm describing. I don't want to spend too long describing it because it is a long journey. But you drop into creation, and there's a deep healing there, and it is like death. You can just let go of everything you want to let go of in that place. And even though there's nothing there, there's a deep, deep healing to that nothingness. Really just clears through everything. And then after a while, you drift away from that center, from the nothingness. You start drifting out, and there's space, and there's stars. And as that happened for me, it was like I'd come from nothingness, and then I would, as it opened up into stars and space, I was like a little baby in my sack. And there's that quality of being a universal baby, or a universal child, a child of the universe, because you've just come out of creation, and there's just space and stars around, and there's that whole quality of being fed by the universe, by the stars, by space. Also very, very healing. And after a while, what you find is there's this feeling of wanting to come back from the earth. You get this little communication between you and the earth, and at that point you start getting pulled back to the earth. And when you arrive in the earth, you don't arrive in the very center of the earth. You arrive in the magma, the heart of the earth, or the uterus for the earth. I mean, your little baby, that's where you end up, is the womb. And suddenly there is substance. Suddenly there's physicality. You've kind of come from a nothingness, and suddenly there's a physicality there. You're inside your sack of water. You've got the umbilical cord to your placenta in that sack. But even so, you are in matter now, and you can feel the love from the earth. You're getting the nourishment from the earth. You're slowly forming. Everything's evolving in you. You're growing and evolving. And as that happens, you slowly, slowly rise until you are formed, and your head rests against the crust of the earth, and you form a bit more. And at a certain point, you're ready. The sac bursts, and you move up into the crust of the earth. This is the vagina for the earth, and it's much more physical. You can feel your sac has gone, and you can feel it on you. And you go through this being born from the earth, but it's not a repeat of your old birth. It's not a repeat of how you were born. You can do it any way you want. You can move your neck, your head, your pelvis. You can speed up, you can slow down, and you slowly make your way out, or breathe your way out. It's the holographic breathing that allows you to go on this journey, and then you are born. And in that you become born of the universe, born of the earth, and you have a deep connection with the earth and the higher energies after that. And it's very different going for walks in the countryside. It's a bit like you feel you can fall back in. Now what we're going to do today is going to be more complicated than that. When in the last two sessions, when I came round to practicing this again, I couldn't actually do that journey again, because whenever I would drop into the earth, my kidneys and adrenals would start pulsing, and my bladder. And the reason for that is that not a lot of people understand the energetics of their sexual energy. And the penis and vagina is connected to the ovary, to the uterus and prostate and the testes and ovaries, but it's actually a different circuit. It's much more to do with the bladder and the kidneys and the adrenals. And so as I was dropping into the earth and it was connecting in me to the penis, instantly it set off the bladder, and the kidneys would start pulsing and the adrenals would start pulsing, and a lot of our sexuality is actually from there. It comes from the kidneys and adrenals. So in the last two ones of these done, we've included that together as I've dropped into, as people have dropped into the magma, rather than it just being the uterus and prostate. It's the uterus, the prostate, the bladder and the kidneys. Those different organs match each other, and then as we drop into the center of the earth, it's been the ovaries and testes and the adrenals. They match and balance each other. I did a lot of healing work with this, helping people with their sexual energies, with menstruation, with menopause, by just balancing between those sets of organs in that way. So that's what we're going to do. And then when you come back, when you're coming back through the earth, the function of orgasm is a lot to do with the energies shifting from one circuit to the other, from the uterus and prostate, ovaries and testes. This area is much more to do with the fire energy. When it releases into the penis, vagina, it's the water energy, and that jump of energies helps create the orgasm, and vice versa from the other sets of organs. So this time, when you're being reborn, it becomes orgasmic. There's a quality of orgasm there. So you have a more orgasmic birth as you're coming back through the earth's crust. So it's much more fun that way. It's more complicated. And we're going to add more again today, because this is the third time I'm running it. And as I was trying to do it this morning, again, I was having a lot of trouble actually doing it. And then when I allowed the whole of the fire circuit to be part of it, then that did it. And so you've got the ovaries and testes and the uterus, prostate. The hara for that circuit is your hara. It's 2 finger widths below the navel. It's the center below the navel, and that circuit, the energies of that fire circuit is the hara, the small intestines, the heart, the ovaries and testes, and the uterus, prostate. And when I allowed the hara to be there, then it allowed me in.